What's up guys, my name is Emily. Welcome to our channel, Gale Force Twins. We have Amanda behind the camera. Would you like to say hello, Amanda? What's up guys, Amanda here. In this video, we are going to teach you a few things, basics about boating. Boating 101, like how to get off a dock, how to get on plane, how to start your boat with your batteries on. Simple things that might be really useful to new boat owners or someone that's looking to buy a boat. First things first, we're going to start at the helm. Clearly, this is where we have the wheel, and then we have our throttles. Now this boat has two motors, so it's one throttle per motor. If you had a single engine, it would just be one throttle. This one wouldn't even be here. The left side throttle is for the left motor, which is also known as the port motor. So left side port. The right side throttle is for the right motor, or the starboard motor. One way to know that, guys, this side is port and this side is starboard. A trick that I was taught was port has P-O-R-T, 4 letters. Left, L-E-F-T, 4 letters. The reason why in the boating world we say port and starboard is because if we turn around, this is left. So what do you do when your deckhand's back there and you're like, the left, but the captain's saying the left, and the deckhand's like, the left. It's not gonna work. So left side is port, right side is starboard. Another trick to learning your difference from port and starboard, what I was taught is P comes before S in the alphabet. So P, Q, R, S, and you read left to right. So port, Q, R, S, starboard, left to right. So that's some simple vocabulary you want to think about. The front of your boat is called the bow of your boat. That's good to know. The back of your boat. On boats our size, we normally call them the transom. You can call it the stern. They have quite a few names. We don't have a big enough boat to have what you would call a midship. This is midship. Emily is midship on the starboard side. Good job, Amanda. Just some things to think about when you're on a boat. It's good lingo to understand it, especially if you're docking boat for the first time and you're like port, starboard. Make sure everybody kind of understands that. It'll help you out. Before you leave the dock, a few safety measures you're going to want to go over. So one thing that you always remember is life jackets. Make sure there's enough life jackets for everybody on your boat. If you have kids on your boat and they're under the age of 13, they have to wear a life jacket. So know where your life jackets are, and when your guests board your boat, whether it's family, friends, cousins, whoever they are, tell them where the life jackets are. In the case of an emergency, throw them on. That's important. The next thing to remember is fire extinguishers. Every boat should have a fire extinguisher. I don't care how big or small your boat is, you're gonna wanna have it. We keep 2 on our boat. 1 underneath the helm seat. Make sure you know where it is, make sure it's not expired. The second one we keep up front where our forward seating is, and when we have guests on our boat, we tell them, just so you guys know, the fire extinguishers are underneath the helm seat, and the second one is right here, and the second one is right here. We keep it underneath this seat where our guest would be sitting. That's just some stuff to think about is where's your fire extinguisher, where's your life jackets, tell your guests. The last and final safety measure you really want to go over is a type 4 or life ring. We keep our life ring right down here, right next to the captain, very accessible. It doesn't have to be a life ring, it can be one of those squares, yellows, yes. But it has to be a type 4 and it has to be accessible. If you get pulled over by the Coast Guard and they say, where's your type 4, and it's buried away in a hatch, you're gonna get ticketed. It has to be available and ready. Those are the 3 safety measures that we go over every day on every charter or whenever we have friends on the boat, family on the boat, it doesn't matter who it is. We could do a whole video on safety, but those are the 3 everyday safety measures we talk about and discuss. Now that everybody knows where the life jackets are, where the fire extinguishers are, and where the throwable ring is, we are going to need to turn our batteries on to start our motors. So let's come over here. Every boat is going to have batteries, their battery switches in a different spot. This is where ours is. So this is what it looks like when it's off. Everything is off. Now if I want to turn them on, I'm going to do my port and my starboard. These are both on. Now the emergency parallel batteries, these are what we would do if our motors weren't starting or we needed some extra juice. So what we would do is turn the batteries to parallel. So take a look at this. All of these switches are parallel with each other. And what it does is it takes all of the batteries in the boat, such as the house battery, each engine battery, and it really gives you all that extra juice to get your motor started if you're ever in a pinch and you're having issues. Some boats won't have these extra switches here, but they will have is this switch goes an extra click. So instead of stopping here, it would go one more time, and that would put your batteries into emergency mode. A good example of just a recreational boater that might need to turn their batteries to parallel. Maybe you're at the sandbar all day, you're playing your music real loud, and you're having a great time, and you go to start your motors and they don't start because they've been running all day. The batteries have, not the motors. So what you might do, go over there, switch them to parallel, gives them that extra juice, gets them going. With the batteries on, I can now access my trim. This is the trim switch right here. Some boats might have them somewhere on the console, but mine is on the throttle. So I'm going to push it down, and what it's going to do is going to put the motors in the water. Because this boat has 2 motors, each motor has its own trim. So this would be the port trim, and this would be the starboard trim right here. I would use that if I needed to access one motor, or if maybe I'm in rough seas and I need to adjust the trim with an individual motor. But for today's video, we're going to be focusing on the one trim, the single trim, that controls both motors at the same time. Let's give these motors a start. Just like turning a key in a car, the old-fashioned way, no push buttons. Before we pull away from the dock, we need to get our lines off. The first line we're going to take off is our stern line, and then we're going to take off our bow line. That's typical for center consoles, which is the order that I would recommend going in. Depending on your boat and your setup, you're going to need to do what's best for you, but traditionally speaking, I would start with the stern and go to the bow. The reason you're going to want to start with the stern line is because if for some reason we're in a pinch and the wind is pulling us off the dock like crazy, and imagine I had taken the bow line off first and all of a sudden the bow starts shifting out, Emily's stern lines are tied up, she's not going to have access to full control with her motor. So take the stern line off first, she has all the control with her motors, then the bow line, and we're good to go. The recommended way to get off of a dock, guys, is to back off a dock. So before I even put a motor in gear, I'm turning my wheels so my motors are facing out. Check that out. Your motors are facing away from the dock. Her wheels are all the way turned. What I am going to do is I'm going to use my left or port motor in reverse, not both motors, because I want that turn to be kind of sharp. So let's go in reverse. So she's using her outside motor, this one, in reverse to pull us off the dock. But using only the outside one, she's going to have a sharper turn off the dock. If she used both, she would have more power. So now that she's off the dock, she's twisting her motors in the opposite direction. Which motor's in gear, Emily? Both of them. Now both of them are in gear, pulling us off and away from the dock. There's the dock. And we're going to start to drive forwards. She's pulling us off. We're safely away from the dock. And now she's driving us forward. Just like that, guys. If we had just pulled straight off the dock, when you turn your wheel, your transom will kick out. It'll actually hit the dock. If you go backwards, if the bow hits the dock, it might just hit a piling or something. You're not going to have straight up transom hitting concrete. Now that we're out here in open water, we are in the Bay or the Gulf of Mexico down in the Florida Keys, but this is where we're going to run around and play around with you guys and show you how to get on plane. First things first, what you're going to want to do is you're going to make sure your motors are trimmed all the way down. Now you might have done that back at the dock, but just in case, make sure your motors are trimmed all the way down. Our motors were not trimmed all the way down because we have some pretty shallow water once we leave our dock. So we actually trim them up. We pull off the dock, then we trim them up to get out away from the shallow water. And then when we're in the channel, we trim them back down and it's time to start getting on plane. But that's just something to think about, guys. If you're in shallow water, trim your motors up a little. Don't want to lose a lower unit. Something important is know the draft of your boat. This boat's draft is 18 inches, so I know when that depth finder reads 2 feet, 3 feet, it's like, okay, I'm getting shallow water, let me trim up a little bit so I don't lose a lower unit like Amanda said. Know your bottom machine, because I want to add something really quick, is our bottom machine, if it is reading 3 feet, my bottom machine is located at the bottom of my boat, and my boat drafts 18 feet, so I can add 18 inches. So I can add 18 inches to my 3 feet depth. So if it's reading 3 feet, I'm really in 4.5 feet of water, almost 5 feet of water. So just keep that in mind. So this way, when I'm going to the sandbar or in shallow water or on a flat and I'm reading 1 foot, I really have 2.5 feet. Obviously, once you're hitting that 1 foot mark, start thinking about where you are. But just keep that in mind. If you are 1 foot, you don't have to panic, but just, okay, don't go any shallower. Let's move forwards with getting on plane. I have my trim, my motors all the way down. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put both motors in gear, and I'm gonna put them almost all the way in gear, guys. I'm not just gonna put a little bit. And we're gonna start to get on plane, and you're gonna watch the boat do this to this. You ready? We're ready. Let's start. I'm idling in gear right now. I got my motor straight. I'm not like sideways or crooked. And we're gonna start going forwards. You ready? Go. Let's go. Let's give this thing some juice. You got your motors trimmed all the way down, you're ready to give the boat some juice. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna throttle pretty much all the way forward or almost all the way forwards. And once the boat's up and running, you can actually throttle it back a little bit. Now, once the boat's up and running, you can actually manipulate it in a way to where it runs even better with the throttles at the same position. So once the boat's on plane, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim up a little bit, and trimming up actually brings the bow up. So what we're doing is we're bringing the boat up and out of the water. By pulling the bow up, you're bringing more boat out of the water. The faster the boat will go, the better your fuel burnage will be. So you're trying to find that optimal speed. Now, if you trim too high, the bow will start almost bouncing, also called porpoising. So it'll be doing this. That's too high, guys. So you bring it back down until it's just like right there. One more thing that I would like to mention is once you're on plane and running, you can use your trim tabs. Now this is different from your trim on your motors. Your trim tabs are what will control the boat from leaning to the left or to the right. One reason why you'll want to do this is if you have a lot of people sitting on the port side of your boat. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bring the bow up on the port side to make up for that imbalance of all that weight there. Other reasons could be ice and fish boxes. It could be where your fuel is. Your fuel tank could be in your port side. Another reason could be rough seas. Sometimes in rough seas the boats run funny, and you find that it's better to have your trim tabs adjusted a certain way in order to run better in those conditions. I'm going to bring the bow up by using the port side trim tab here, just like that, to take the boat from doing this to this. And the same thing would apply to the starboard side. If the boat is this way, we are going to trim up, bring the bow up on the starboard side. Same thing applies for bringing the bow down. If the boat is bouncing a lot, like a lot, let's say you did what you could with your motors and it's still bouncing a lot, you can actually bring your bow down with your trim tabs, and what you're gonna do is just push them down. Now that you're on plane and you're adjusting your trim to pull the bow of the boat out of the water, what that's going to do is it's pulling the body of the boat out of the water, creating less resistance from the water, and more the boat is actually in the air, is one way to think about it. Now that your boat is in the air and you're trimming up, you can actually travel at a faster speed without pushing your throttles forward. So your throttles are pulled back a little bit from full throttle, and your boat is trimmed up, and you're traveling even faster than you would be if you weren't trimmed up. We hope you guys learned something from this video. We hope you enjoyed it. Now make sure you hit that subscribe button for us.
Right here.
Smash the like button. And make sure you follow Gale Force Twins on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments for us. We love seeing what you guys have to say. Thanks for watching.